Hey everyone, it's your sweet and sassy, always classy Nancy Ray Allen. I have some really cool stuff I want to share with you today. So, a really amazing woman approached me about a question that has to do with making decisions. And I think that as humans on this planet, this is something that we all kind of have to trip through in our experience to be able to make good decisions. And I have created a diagram that I would like to show that really explains what's going on when this is so tricky. So I'm going to draw for you what I believe is going on. This is a great way to frame it, a way to think about it, so you can understand why things can be so hard sometimes when you're making decisions. Okay, so I'm drawing for you a brain here, and it's going to look a little bit like maybe a hairy football. You'll love it. Okay, so what we have here is I've drawn for you, this is a brain, okay, and this is your body. So when we're making decisions, a lot of the time what's going on is our brain is communicating to our body. It is communicating through logic and reasoning. Okay, so it's like, yeah, I'm thinking about making this decision, and this is what makes sense logically, right? So our brain is telling our body, like, this is what makes sense, this is what's logical and what's reasonable. And the body is communicating back to the brain through emotion. Okay, this can get really sticky when we're especially talking about decisions relating to relationships. So I know a woman who has had a hard time deciding whether or not to be with her significant other. And the reason why is there's been a lot of betrayal and a lot of just yucky stuff going on in the relationship, and he has shown time and time again that he's not going to be trustworthy and he's not going to be accountable or respectful. And what's going on for her is her logical brain is like, her logic part of her is like, yeah, clearly this is not good for us to be here, it's not what we want, But her emotions are communicating something so different. So over the course of the year or two that they've been together, she's created a chemical addiction to the emotions that she feels when she's with him. So emotionally, she's like, man, I just feel like it's right. I just feel like I need to be in this relationship. And what she's going off of a lot of the times is going to be that emotion, which is a chemical experience, okay? So this right here is like, crazy, like back and forth. This is where people are like, in just like the drudgery of decision making. It can be really hard because it's like, this side's like, oh, let's create the pros and cons list, and this side's like, trust your heart, just trust your heart. And it's like neither of those are really going to give you the best possible answer. So that's why we add our lovely little star up here that I've drawn. This star represents your higher intelligence. So for God-fearing people, this is going to represent God and the parts of you within you that are maybe spirit or eternal, okay? For other people, this is just going to be that highest version of you. So that person that you aspire to be, this other part of you, okay? So however that works for your belief system, just kind of, put that into context for you, okay? So there's this higher intelligence, we're just going to call this intelligence in you. And at any given time when you have a decision to make, like, oh, should I do this or should I do this? This higher intelligence is communicating to you. So the higher intelligence communicates to the body through what I call impressions. Okay? And these impressions sometimes can be communicated by people as like a feeling. It's just like this impression that you have that like this is what needs to happen, okay? And it also communicates to the brain, but it communicates to the brain through clarity and definiteness. I'm struggling to say that, but definitiveness, okay? So things that are definite, that's how it's communicating. But here's the thing, for the most part, when we're in the middle of our decisions, we are bouncing back so fast between our emotions or our feelings and our logical reasoning brain that we're not listening, we're not willing to listen. Okay, so in order for the brain and the body to really get the communication that this higher intelligence is sending to us, what needs to happen is the body needs to be willing. Okay, the body needs to be willing, because sometimes when we are meant to do something, it's going to hurt. Emotionally, it's going to hurt, or it's physically going to be hard, and the body has to be willing. When the body becomes willing, it's then open to the impressions that it's getting about what it is meant to be doing, what you're meant to be doing, how you're meant to be moving forward, okay? All right, the brain. What the brain needs to do to really get the communication that's coming to it through clarity and definiteness, is it needs to surrender. So it needs to surrender, and what that looks like is setting down expectations of what things are supposed to look like. So in our brains, we have these expectations of how things are meant to play out in the plan that we have. Like, oh, this is what I planned on. This is what's meant to be. And the brain has a lot of ideas about what is safe and what is not safe. Okay? So the brain can be like really rebelling in a big, big way, like massively huge, to receiving the clarity of what is supposed to happen to move forward. Oh my gosh. So I hope you see. Oh, surrender. Wrong way. I did that so wrong. Okay. So clarity and definiteness. Okay, so I hope that fixed that for you. So clarity is how our higher intelligence communicates to us, to the brain. And surrender is how what the brain needs to do in order to actually be open to hearing the way to move forward, the actual answer. So when you're faced with a decision, and oh my gosh, you're like, I'm like stuck in between these two things, like emotions, reasoning. Slow down. Start asking yourself some questions about being willing and about surrendering. Surrendering control, surrendering expectations, surrendering perceptions, what other people are going to perceive about this decision. And when you do that, what you create through willingness and through surrendering is you create trust. And this is a word that I talked about in another video. And I talked about not using this word. But what you actually do when you surrender and you're willing is you are trusting that part of you. You are surrendering to that part of you that already knows what you need to be doing. In my experience, we already know usually what we're meant to be doing. As much as we try to ignore this talking to us, we deep down really do know. And as we get out of our way and we be willing to do what it is, and we surrender the control and the expectation and it making sense to our brain, wow, answers just start flooding to us. We know what to do and we live truly inspired. So I hope this helps you guys with making decisions, because man, it can get so sticky. And I hope this illustration really kind of explains to you what's going on up here. Awesome. Okay, so till next time, this was Nancy Ray Allen, and we will talk to you later.